right, well, good morning, and thank you for your patience and your waiting. My name is Tom Dombrowski, pastor of Middletown, Portland, and Three Angels Church, and I also serve in a voluntary position as the Conference Health Ministries coordinator. And I shared this yesterday when Dr. Kathy was here. She was actually in Bailey Hall because of the heat situation, but how many of you attended the health fair on Sunday? Okay. And this is a model of how we're trying to model how a health fair can be conducted, not should be, but can be. But I think it's a viable method, and that is we had the health fair on Sunday, we did diagnosis on Sunday, but now we are offering the what? The education, the answers, the presentations. And so we advertised for this very meeting with Dr. Laura and yesterday with Dr. Kathy Uwingo. We advertised that at the health fair so that it was already on the schedule. And that's how in your local churches, when you conduct a health fair, that's how I'm encouraging you to conduct your health fairs, that when you conduct a health fair, you have the health fair, and then you have something already planned and advertised, and you have your speaker already set in place so that you don't have to do the health fair, and then after the health fair is over, say, now what do we do? No, you want to have the health fair on whatever date you set it, and then a week later, you've already handed the handouts, the invitations to the people. Does that make sense? And more than likely, what are one of the things that you're going to diagnose at a health fair? Well, blood pressure problems are one of them, and this is what Dr. Laura is going to talk to us about. In fact, we were just chatting just briefly beforehand. She said this is the reason she chose this particular topic is because in her practice back in Connecticut, this is the problem that has occurred the most frequently. So it's a two-part presentation today and tomorrow. It will be here. Unless there's a 150-degree heat wave, we'll be here tomorrow again. So with that, let me start with a word of prayer, and Dr. Laura Harris from Wellspring will be our presenter. Let's pray. Father God, we want to thank you for your goodness and your tender mercies. Thank you for reducing the heat here at the Southern New England Camp Meeting. We praise you for that. It's much more comfortable than what it was yesterday. And so, Father, we thank you for this opportunity to hear this presentation that Dr. Laura has prepared for us, and I pray that we would have the ears to hear and understand and apply what she is going to be teaching us today. Give her the clarity of thought to present what is necessary for our understanding. We pray this for the advancement of your kingdom and cause. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Good morning. There we go. Is everyone enjoying the cooler weather? I am so thankful for the cooler weather. Thank you for the introduction, Pastor. So as he shared, when he reached out about me doing a seminar this year at camp meeting, he told me that I could choose the topic. And so today's presentation is on blood pressure, and tomorrow's presentation is going to be on stress, because I'm sure I'm not the only person who deals with stress. And I find a lot of my clients who come through, they struggle with stress as well, and we know how that ties into our health, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But at this point, just to continue a bit of an introduction, has everyone here heard of Wellspring Health Ministries? No? All right. So Wellspring Health Ministries is a nonprofit organization in Connecticut. I'm the founder and the president of it. We have a team of individuals who helps put together health programming. We do classes in our communities and educate in places like this. And then I also see clients one-on-one. So I just wanted to let you know, if you would like to be able to get some of my contact information, or you'd like to learn about what we're doing in Connecticut, there is a booth set up in the education tent, or the exhibit tent, I think they call it now. It's a big green booth. You can't miss it, okay? So controlling blood pressure naturally. I'm going to try not to block the screen too much. Am I holding this right? Ooh, it beeped at me. There we go. So we have a few objectives for the class this morning. We want to understand the physiology behind circulation and blood pressure. We want to understand the importance of monitoring our blood pressure. A lot of I harp on a lot of my clients that they need to watch their blood pressure, and a lot of them don't think they have to. They have the idea, you know the saying, ignorance is bliss? If I don't know it's a problem, then it must not be a problem. That's not true. We want to learn natural modalities that will help lower blood pressure, and then how to implement those lifestyle changes, because it's not enough to just know things, right? We need to be able to incorporate it. So we're going to start off by talking about the circulatory system, just as a bit of the science behind how our blood pressure works. So the circulatory consists of heart and blood vessels that are responsible for carrying blood throughout the body. Blood vessels are characterized as veins, arteries, and capillaries. And you see there's a little diagram off to the side where it's showing some of the major blood vessels and veins in our body. The blue represents the veins. That's where oxygen-poor blood goes. We'll mention that in a moment. And the red is the arteries that brings oxygen-rich blood throughout the body. Now, just as a fun question, you think every cell in our body requires blood to supply it, right? And so there's all little blood vessels and capillaries and veins throughout our whole body. If we were to take every single one of them individually, I don't know how they figured out this answer, but they wanted to say if we took every single vein, every single artery, and we laid them all end to end, how long would it be?
60,000.
You say 60,000 miles? That's a lot. 5,000? Wow. I asked this at the last time I gave a presentation, and I was getting answers like 25 feet, 50 feet. So, around the world. So the world is over 200,000 miles, right? The answer, 60,000 miles. Oh, no, the world is 20,000, not 200. Good job, Pastor. So 60,000, that's a lot of blood vessels in our body, isn't it? That's really, really far. Yeah, right? They evolved one artery a year, right? 60,000 years. But it's amazing. And there was an exhibit that came through, they travel around, but they came through Connecticut, I don't know, maybe a decade ago. And it was called Bodies Revealed. Have you guys heard of it? Have you gone and seen it? No, it was phenomenal, wasn't it? So they have these actual bodies on display that have been donated to science, and they show the different muscles, they show the skeleton system, and they actually had a portion, if I remember correctly, it was the lungs, and they had dissolved all the tissues in this formula so that all you were left with were these veins and arteries. And it was amazing how intricate it was. And I've always loved health to begin with, obviously. But leaving that presentation and their display, I had a new appreciation for how wonderful God has designed us. It's amazing. We're definitely not made by chance. So we have the heart. The heart is the main organ of the circulatory system. The heart's job is to pump blood throughout the body. It consists of 4 chambers, the right atrium, the right ventricle, the left atrium, and the left ventricle, that briefly hold blood before moving it to the next chamber. You may remember last year in our presentations on natural remedies, we mentioned a little bit about how back in history, they misunderstood the heart's job. You remember, we talked, if anyone, who was here at the presentations last year? Yes? So I had mentioned about George Washington and how he died. Does anyone remember? They bled him to death because they thought back then that the heart's job was to produce blood. And if you were sick, it meant you had bad blood. And so we now know that's not the case. The heart's job is simply to pump the blood throughout the body. So oxygen-poor blood, so as your blood goes through your body, it's delivering oxygen to all your different cells. And then it gets depleted of the oxygen itself. So oxygen-poor blood, now it needs to be resupplied. So it goes down into the right ventricle, it goes into the lungs add oxygen back into the blood, the newly oxygenated blood flows back to the heart through the left atrium pumps into the ventricle, and then back into the body. So it's even amazing that it's not just it goes into the heart and then goes out the other side. It has a system. And if I go back a few slides, here on the diagram of the heart, you see the numbers? that shows the pathway that the blood comes. So you see it goes down like that blue, the blue vein, and then it comes back in through the red and goes back out to the body. So to understand blood pressure is the force of blood against vessel walls as it's pumped from the heart. During ventricular contraction, the pressure against the vessel walls is higher. So as the heart is pumping the blood out, there's more force on the artery walls, right? This is the systolic number. So when you take your blood pressure, that's the top number that you see. When the heart is relaxed in between beats, the pressure obviously was going to be lower, and this is your diastolic number. So that's the smaller number on the bottom. So when you take your blood pressure and you have the high and the low, that's what you're testing. And actually, you see in the picture here where they're doing a manual blood pressure check, they're actually listening for the heartbeat. You can hear the heartbeat, and that marks the upper end and the lower end of your blood pressure. This is a chart of what's considered normal blood pressure and the different stages of hypertension. So a normal blood pressure is less than 120/80. And they updated these requirements a few years ago, and I remember people complaining, saying, oh, they lowered the number just because they want to put us on more medication. But what actually happened is they found that even with their upper limits, where they said that you don't have high blood pressure if you have this higher number, that people were still getting sick and having symptoms of high blood pressure. And they realized, oh, our parameters must be off. So 120/80 is considered normal. Anything below 130/80 is considered a little elevated. And then stage 1 hypertension is 130s/80s, and then stage 2 is anything over 140/90. So that's your little chart to know where you fall. When blood pressure is consistently elevated, the circulatory system becomes damaged. Arteries may become damaged and narrowed, which inhibits proper blood flow. High blood pressure also creates an extra strain on the heart, and over time, heart muscles don't work as it should. Do you know what the nickname is for high blood pressure? The silent killer. And they call it that because you can have blood pressure issues and not know about it. And so initially, you feel fine. You don't know that there's a problem going on in your system, but when it's consistently a problem, your body starts to tell on you, and you start to have other problems. So these are some of the issues that can happen when high blood pressure is left untreated. You can have heart failure, heart attacks, strokes, aneurysms, can lead to kidney failure, eye damage, and they've even linked it with dementia. So those are some serious problems that we want to try to avoid, right? I just want to mention this, the two main types of hypertension. We have primary hypertension. That's just a fancy word for high blood pressure. It says those are individuals who have elevated blood pressure with seemingly no cause. So you don't have any other problems, you just have high blood pressure. That is the most common form of hypertension. Secondary hypertension refers to individuals who experience high blood pressure due to another condition, such as hormone-producing tumors, kidney disease, sleep apnea, and certain medications can raise your blood pressure as well. That makes up a significantly smaller portion of cases. But if you have high blood pressure, the first thing you want to look at is, do you have something else going on? Because if there is, then you want to treat that, and that'll help the blood pressure. But for most of us, primary hypertension is the problem where we need to make lifestyle measures to deal with that. Common risk factors for you to develop high blood pressure would be a family history, a sedentary lifestyle, which unfortunately a lot of Americans have these days. To be overweight increases your risk dramatically, tobacco and alcohol use, diets high in sodium, diets low in potassium, and age. As your age rises, your blood pressure tends to rise as well. And there's some normal limits of that, but that's just a general rule. So blood pressure on the rise. Before we get into the natural remedies, I just wanted to share some statistics on blood pressure in the United States. During August of 2021 and August 2023, so this was looking at 2 years of data, it says the prevalence of adult hypertension was 47.7%. That's almost half of the population. Hypertension was higher in men than women and increased with age. So you see 23% of individuals between 18 and 39 have it, 52% if you're between 40 and 59, and 71% of individuals 60 and older develop high blood pressure. Among the adults with hypertension, 59% were aware. So that means there's 41% who have high blood pressure and they don't know. Like Pastor was saying earlier, I've had it happen many times at a health fair where someone comes through and I check their blood pressure and I tell them, your blood pressure is really high. And they're like, no, I don't have problems with my blood pressure. And they're like, wait a few minutes and we'll check it again. And the same thing, and I tell them, you don't have symptoms, because their response will be, I feel fine. It's like, that's normal to feel fine, but you need to monitor this. And then it opens up the door for them to ask about different issues that they're facing and how they can help their blood pressure. But a lot of people don't know that they have a problem. More than half of the adults are taking a medication, but even though half of adults are taking medications, only 20% have their blood pressure under control. That's kind of sad, right? And then it says there's no significant change seen in awareness, treatment, or control between March 2020 and previously, and between August 21st and 2023. So even though this is a big issue, there hasn't been an increase of awareness. And I put that fact there because I'm going to come back to that in a second. It's not just the United States. Worldwide, it's estimated 1.28 billion adults suffer from high blood pressure. And again, an estimated 46% are unaware. Less than half of them are diagnosed and treated. And approximately only 21% have their blood pressure under control. Hypertension is a major cause of premature death worldwide, and one of the global targets for non-communicable diseases is to reduce the prevalence of hypertension by 33% before the year of 2030. So if that's their goal, to reduce blood pressure by 33%, but we haven't seen any significant changes in awareness in the last, 8 years? We're not really on track, are we? So in 2022, this is the United States, high blood pressure was a primary or a contributing cause of 685,875 deaths. That's a lot. If as many lives were claimed by a natural disaster, we would not be so complacent. And I took that quote from this book. I'm going to show you this now as a resource. This is 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. It's called the No Pressure Solution. Really good book. I recommend. You want to pass it around? As long as it comes back to me. It's a really good book. It goes through a lot of our laws of health. We're going to touch on a lot of the points, kind of overlaps that are in the book, except the book goes into very good details with different lifestyle measures. They tell you, it has a chapter on coaching, where it helps you learn how to set goals that are achievable and to attain them. It's a very, very good book that you can use. You can even use it at your churches for your health ministries. Make it like a book club and go through chapters every week. So it's a really good one. Conventionally treated, we already mentioned that half of individuals have medications, but only 1 in 5 have their blood pressure under control. Why is this? Individuals taking medications for their blood pressure may experience negative side effects, which in turn affects their adherence to their medication regimen. So many people would rather feel better and deal with the consequences of their health later than to take something that doesn't make them feel good in the moment, or it doesn't taste good, or to give up something they like, right? It says also in many cases, blood pressure doesn't respond adequately to medications. So you hear a lot of individuals that they have to change their medications or they have to take multiples together. And so it's not the easiest way to treat with pills. So let's look at lowering our blood pressure naturally. We're going to get into why you guys are actually here, right? So a case study. This was someone that I worked with. I changed their name. This is Amy was a 60-year-old woman with uncontrolled blood pressure and diabetes. Even strictly adhering to a medication regimen, her numbers never seemed to improve. If anything, they continued to get worse. Finally, one day she decided that she needed a change. She realized she needed to do more than simply take her medicine. She needed to change her life. Determined to make a difference, she began implementing various lifestyle measures into her day-to-day life. Within a few months, she began normalizing her blood pressure and weaning off of her insulin. She lost weight, she felt more energized, she was sleeping better, and had a more positive outlook on life. So the lifestyle things that she implemented didn't just benefit her blood pressure, it benefited her weight, her blood pressure, her diabetes, her mental health. She was a new person. Her whole life. She was so thrilled with her results that she decided she would never go back to her old lifestyle and began teaching others what she had learned. She became so excited, it was something she couldn't keep a secret. Right? You know when something really good happens and you just can't wait to share it with others? So we're going to go and look at some of the various things and what these lifestyle measures were that she would have implemented. We're going to start with nutrition. Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Who said that? Hippocrates. I like to use quotes from Hippocrates. I was sharing this with someone Saturday because Hippocrates is considered the father of modern medicine, right? Even the Wellspring t-shirts that we have another quote from Hippocrates on the back. It says, the greatest medicine of all is teaching others how not to need it. And it's interesting because, even when doctors become doctors, they take the Hippocratic Oath. But if you actually go back and look at the original Hippocratic Oath and a lot of the principles that Hippocrates stood for, he focused a lot on diet and nutrition and exercise and water and being healthy overall, which at the time would have been novel. And a lot of people got better. But now we seem to have gotten away from that. So we're going to follow some of Hippocrates' advice and get back to health. So understanding the role of diet, nutrients we derive from our food is divided into two main categories, macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients are nutrients that we need in a larger supply. So these include carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Micronutrients are nutrients that are just as essential, but they're needed in smaller amounts. These include vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Unfortunately, many Americans have an unbalanced diet. They frequently eat a lot of unhealthy carbohydrates, proteins, and fats while missing out on the micronutrients. When these essential elements are missing, the body as a whole suffers. What would be an example of a meal that an American could eat where they're getting a lot of carbohydrates and fats and proteins, but they're not getting any micronutrients, vitamins? Burgers, fries, and a milkshake? That nails it, right? You think of places like McDonald's and Burger King. Pizza, yep, that would be another one. Macaroni and cheese, there you go. So you're getting, yep, someone said pizza. But you're getting calories, but you're not really getting any nutrition. You're filling your stomach, but you're not feeding your body. Chips, there you go. So there's this concept of nutrient density. Nutrient-dense foods are foods that are high in nutrients and low in calories. These foods contain vitamins, minerals, complex carbohydrates, healthy fats, and lean proteins. So where do you think we're going to get our nutrient-dense foods from? From whole foods, like plant-based. So like produce. Heard someone say produce. You make yourself a nice salad. Dr. Kathy was talking yesterday about having a beautiful salad and all the benefits in that. We need more of this as Americans, right? What was that? There you go. That's a good point. Sometimes we get the healthy salad and then we drown it in a high-fat, high-salt dressing. And then that kind of defeats the purpose of eating the salad, right? So we want to eat nutrient-dense foods. And that's pretty much what I'll say as far as diet, because I'd be preaching to the choir, right? We're going to cover a few specific things in diet, but as a whole, we know what nutrient-dense foods are. So calcium. Calcium is the mineral that's needed in the largest quantity by the body. But did you know that it helps your heart too? This is from the American Heart Association. It says calcium is best known as the building material for your skeleton. More than 99% of it is in bones and teeth. But calcium also plays several roles related to heart health. It may help regulate blood clotting, heart rhythms, and how blood vessels dilate and contract. If your blood vessels aren't opening and closing when they should, that would pose a problem, right? So calcium helps to regulate that. Contrary to popular belief, milk is not the best source of calcium. You guys remember all the Got Milk campaigns, right? Where they had all the celebrities with the milk mustaches, because they were trying to promote how good milk is for you. But it's actually not the best source of calcium. While cow's milk is high in calcium, it's not bioavailable to the body. The calcium in cow's milk was meant for the baby cows, right? So the baby cows absorb the calcium really well, but us humans, we only get about 30% of it. However, consuming dark green leafy vegetables like kale will provide high levels of bioavailable calcium. So when you eat a cup of kale, you're getting up to 60% of the calcium that's in that kale. And it's better for your body. Now, again, if you were in Dr. Kathy's lecture yesterday, she talked about milk, right? So she talked about some of the unhealthy things that you find in milk. So for people who say that, well, I'm going to get my calcium from drinking milk, you'll get a little bit of calcium, but then you're getting the casein and you're getting the saturated fats and whatever antibiotics and hormones they put in there, and that kind of defeats the health, right? Now, just as an important note, in order for the body to absorb calcium, vitamin D is required. Without adequate vitamin D levels, calcium is not absorbed. So, I hope this week, in spite of how hot it was, that some of you were able to get some sunshine. Or were you hiding from the sun? You're hiding from the sun? I actually did go out and get some sunshine when it cooled off a little bit. But here, I will say, here in New England, come winter time, most all of us need to supplement vitamin D because we get snow and clouds and rain, and then the sun hides for like 3 months. And so you may need to supplement in the winter time. But here in the yes, but here in the summertime, make use of that sun. It could even just be 15, 20 minutes a day, but go outside and get some sunshine. Magnesium, another important mineral. Magnesium regulates calcium entering the cells of the heart and the blood vessels. While the body doesn't need magnesium to absorb calcium, it prevents calcium from depositing where it's not supposed to. When magnesium levels are too low, calcium levels are also reduced. So it's amazing how God created foods so that they have the vitamins and minerals that work well together, right? They work in harmony and synchrony, and they benefit each other. So when we take supplements that just isolate a single component, they're not as good for us because they don't have their friends to work together. So it's always best to try to get the minerals and vitamins you need from food sources. It says magnesium also promotes vasodilation and increases nitric oxide, which is a gas produced by the body that helps relax our blood vessels, thus improving blood pressure levels. Now, where do you think we find magnesium? Nuts. Yes, I actually have cashews there, so it's kind of cheating. Cashews and almonds are the highest source of nuts for magnesium. But here's a little list. You get it in your soy products, so like tofu. You get it in your legumes, nuts and seeds, your dark leafy greens, and your whole grains.
What about peanuts? Does it contain high magnesium as well?
Peanuts do contain magnesium. Peanuts are in the legume family. Yeah, it's a legume, so it's technically a bean. But I will say it depends on how you're eating your peanuts, how much they'll benefit you. You know, cashews and almonds. Okay, sodium. When we think of blood pressure, oh, you had your hand up?
Yes. The confusing thing about all of these things is when you look on the label of a bottle, it tells you, but when you're portioning out your foods, we really don't know how to portion out to make everything work together.
Okay.
That's our calcium and our magnesium.
That is true, but that's why I will say that the more, like we were talking in the beginning about having nutrient-dense foods, a lot of times if we eat a lot of, like we were saying earlier, the chips and the burgers and things, you're not getting any nutrition. But if you eat the plant-based foods and you eat a variety of them, that's the key. I tell all of my clients, a variety of them. You want to see the rainbow. I actually did a challenge, I think I mentioned it last year, with a friend of mine, that I had read a study that said individuals with the best health ate 31 different fruits and vegetables, plant foods a week. 31. And so I was like, I'm going to try this. So I had a friend, and I'm competitive. We were competing with each other to see how long of a list we could make. And at first, I was like, I'm going to make a smoothie. That's 8 right there. And then I'm going to have a salad, and that's like another 8. But as the week went on, I realized, oh, it's getting a little harder because you're not supposed to repeat. So then it forced me to be more creative, and I actually realized by doing that little experiment that I wasn't eating nuts. When I was looking for something I could add in, I was like, wait, I haven't had any cashews or almonds or walnuts. So that helped me realize I needed to incorporate nuts into my diet, and it actually had some benefit for me. So the key is eating a variety, and God has portioned things out for us. I had a hand back here.
Well, I'm just going to say, even though vegetables don't come with the labels,
Nope.
means we should have it on our fridge, I guess, right? We should have that chart on our fridge. But if you do have the labels, they do have a percent.
Yeah, you can look up the vegetables and see their.
Yeah, well, nobody's writing a cookbook or a lifestyle book about doing that.
The difficulty is I've worked with some individuals who get too hung up on what they should eat with what, and then it becomes a problem because now they're not enjoying and benefiting from the variety. And so that's why with my clients, I try to keep things simple. I try not to make things too complicated, because if I make it too complicated, you're not going to follow it. So if you just focus on a variety and colors, you're going to get the things you need.
I found that by giving up table salt and using Celtic salt made a big difference in my life.
Because it has more minerals in it.
It has the magnesium, and it has all of the trace minerals that you don't get with regular table salt, which has aluminum in it.
So that's a simple way that some people can benefit if they're looking to up their minerals, is just making the switch to Celtic or even Himalayan salt. You know, you get some nutrition that way. That's a good point. Pastor?
Yeah, I think we were in the class together, was the one in Lexington, about the 30 foods per week. And
Maybe.
it was the doctor from Loma Linda. She talked about the liver and love your liver and all. Anyways, the point is that to add to that variety is that you think the recommendation was to eat 30 fruits and vegetables per week, but you can eat a Macintosh apple and name another kind of apple. A Red Delicious. That counts as 2 different fruits. Yes, even though it's an apple, because they're 2 different strains or 2 different varieties, that counts as something different. So
And you can get 2 different colors. You got green apples, red apples, yellow apples. Yes.
How do you get your iodized salt beside the iodine inside getting from the salt?
Well, a good way to get it is from salt. Another way would be seaweed. She's asking about iodine. Seaweed. All right, but let's.
Do you get the iodine from the Celtic or the Himalayan salt?
No. All right, so sodium, Americans love salt. We'll just say that. Sodium is needed by the body in small amounts for nerve and muscle function. So sodium has a benefit to us. However, too much sodium encourages your body to retain too much fluid. This increases the volume of the blood and thereby increases your blood pressure when you retain fluid. Americans should aim to consume less than 2,000 milligrams of salt a day. That's according to the World Health Organization. But most Americans consume more than 3,300 milligrams of salt per day. So we're way over. But even cutting back salt a little bit can make a difference in your blood pressure. So if you know that you have an issue with blood pressure, try doing less salt. And just to throw this out there, when we're talking about the nutrient-poor foods, they tend to be high in sodium. So if you think of like a bag of potato chips, they're salty, right? If you go to a restaurant and you're getting a burger or a pizza, they typically have a higher sodium content than if you made yourself something to eat at home. So a lot of Americans, they're getting their sodium from eating out, which I'm not saying is bad to do. I eat out as well. But how frequently and where are you eating out? Okay. So saturated and trans fats. I do want to touch on that for a moment. Before I read this, what do we know about saturated and trans fats? Not good for us. I think Dr. Kathy talked about it a bit yesterday, so I'm kind of giving you guys like pop quizzes, building up on her. Where do we find it? Okay, in a lot of processed foods. Meat, animal products. Some vegetarian foods can have it. Yes. So this was a study that was done. It was a small study of 30 participants, but it's significant. This was published in the Journal of Nutrition back in 2007. It says 30 healthy participants ate a high-fat and a low-fat meal on 2 separate occasions. So one time they had high-fat, another time they had low-fat. And their cardiovascular response to 2 standard laboratory stresses were measured. They measured their blood pressure and they measured their peripheral resistance. So that's the resistance of the arteries as the blood flowed through it. Systolic blood pressure, that's the upper number, and diastolic blood pressure, the lower one, and total peripheral resistance was greater in participants following the consumption of the high-fat meal in comparison to when they ate a low-fat meal. The findings of the present study are consistent with the hypothesis that even a single high-fat meal may be associated with heightened cardiovascular reactivity to stress and offer insights into the pathways through which a high-fat diet may affect cardiovascular function. So even one meal makes a difference. And you notice this combining it with stress. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow. But even one meal can make a difference. One meal. Lunch.
So in a lifetime, one meal.
They were looking at the immediate effects of that meal.
Okay.
So it's now if you eat one meal and you get an immediate effect, that's negative. Now I'm not one, like I said, I like to be balanced. I'm never going to tell you you can't have a slice of pizza as a treat once in a while, right? But if you eat a pizza, let's say, and at one event, you have a negative effect in your body where your parameters change in the negative direction. But then the typical American, they're not just having one high-fat meal, right? So if we see the negative change with just one meal, imagine when you're eating the high-fat meal 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, over the course of a month of a year. Then it accumulates in a negative way. Diets high in fat, saturated fat, and trans fat can increase LDL, that's your bad cholesterol, and triglycerides, which contributes to both atherosclerosis and high blood pressure. This is when plaque and things start building up in your arteries. Atherosclerosis narrows the blood vessels, and it decreases blood flow to the kidneys. Now, the kidneys register this, that, hey, our blood pressure seems a little bit low. Not because it really is, but because that's what the receptors are saying. So the kidneys try to increase the blood pressure by expanding blood volume and constricting the smaller blood vessels. However, the pressure increases not only in the kidneys, but throughout the whole system. The resulting increase in blood pressure can further damage the blood vessel walls and will intensify the atherosclerosis. So again, this is about not having the habits. So if you have a habit of eating high salts, high fats, high oils, a lot of processed foods, try to find ways that you can cut it back. The next food we're going to mention, caffeine. I apologize if I step on any of your toes. According to an article published by the Cleveland Clinic in February of 2025, caffeine can raise one's blood pressure by 10 points. Isn't that amazing? This is due to the constricting effect that caffeine has on blood vessels. Blood pressure begins rising within 30 minutes of ingesting the caffeine, and it can last for 3 to 4 hours. It's recommended that individuals with high blood pressure avoid caffeine products. I'd take that a step further and say everybody should avoid. Because if you think, if a healthy blood pressure is the 120/80 mark, and caffeine can raise my blood pressure by 10 points, that right there put me in a pre-hypertensive state.
What number does it affect, both?
Both. Yes. And so again, you think of how many Americans drink coffees and hot chocolates and energy drinks and Red Bulls. Dunkin' Donuts slogan, America runs on Dunkin'. A lot of people can't start their day without drinking coffee. But caffeine has a whole host of other effects. Even decaf, it's a better option, but even that may still have some lower levels of caffeine in it. It doesn't get removed completely. There are actually, for those who like coffee, there's a bunch of healthy alternatives these days. So there's Roma, there's Pero, they're like the grain coffees, but there's a whole brand that uses dandelion root.
Chicory root.
What is that?
Chicory root?
Yep, chicory root is used.
Ticino. It has the chicory root in it. You can brew it just like coffee. It's all healthy.
And does it taste like coffee?
No.
That was a curiosity question.
But it satisfies a need for a warm cup of something in the morning. So I use it with like oat milk, and it takes away the cravings for the coffee.
There you go. Yes.
You have to get adjusted. Your taste buds will change.
I have a slide on that.
Okay.
I'm coming back to that. I just asked that because there are some products that I end up recommending for clients when they're looking for something. And so I'm always looking to learn about more products. I haven't had that one. The thing is, I don't like coffee. So I've tried some of those imitation coffees, and they remind me too much of coffee, and so I don't even drink it. So I'm just asking to recommend my clients. I don't know which one tastes the closest to coffee, because I don't like any of them.
But sometimes it's not about the taste, it's about the morning routine.
That's true.
This one is not an instant like Roma or Para. So you can...
You said it's called Ticino?
It's called Ticino. You
Ticino.
can get it on Whole Foods if you want to pay a lot, or Amazon for a little.
There you go.
I make it in a French press.
Okay.
It has the morning routine. You add it with the oat milk, and it makes a delicious iced coffee too.
Well, there you go. So you guys can try Ticino. I haven't tried that one. All right. I want to mention this. This is an article by the American Health Association about plant-based proteins and how they can lower blood pressure risk. So this is now looking at animal meats, versus plant-based protein. It says researchers analyzed data for 2,294 participants, so this isn't a small group, in the multi-ethnic study of atherosclerosis who filled out a questionnaire about the foods that they ate. These participants also indicated they had no history of blood pressure. So they're starting out clean slate. No high blood pressure, thank you. We have to have blood pressure. They were an average of 58 years old at the start of the study, and they were followed for up to 18 years, with a median follow-up of almost 9 years. So they wanted to see the long-term effects of the food that's being eaten. Researchers found no strong evidence to support a link between animal protein intake and high blood pressure risk. I think it's interesting they say that, because the very next sentence says, but they did find that the more plant-based proteins a person ate, they're lower risk for hypertension. I'd venture to say that if you're eating the higher plant proteins, you're eating less of the animal proteins, right? And they're getting a benefit. Oh, I went the wrong way. For every 20 grams of plant-based proteins consumed each day, the risk of hypertension decreased by 16% compared to those who ate the fewest plant foods. So that's a pretty good incentive to eat a whole foods plant-based diet. Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in the United States, and diet plays an instrumental role in CVD development. Plant-based diets have been strongly tied to a reduction in CVD incidence. In contrast, animal food consumption may increase your risk of cardiovascular disease. So I thought that was interesting. There's very clear science that says animal proteins increase your risk of heart disease. If you have problems with your heart, your doctor may have even told you to limit your red meats and limit your seafoods. But they didn't want to say it can be connected to blood pressure. They were trying to draw the line there. Angiotensin II. I want to mention this briefly. It's a group of hormones. Angiotensin is a group of hormones released by the body to raise your blood pressure levels. Remember, we've talked in previous years about homeostasis and how your body's always looking to maintain a balance. So the cycle begins when your kidneys sense that there's lower blood pressure levels. So the kidneys are like, hey, our blood pressure's dropping, we need to do something. They release an enzyme called renin into the bloodstream, which is broken down into angiotensin 1. An enzyme called ACE further splits that down into what is known as angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 constricts the blood vessels as a way of increasing blood pressure. It also causes your body to release an antidiuretic hormone to raise blood pressure levels. This hormone also plays an important role in the balance of sodium and potassium in the body. So if you have an incidence where your blood pressure is dropping, this is a good mechanism that God gave us to make sure our blood pressure stays where it's supposed to. But when we have all the previous lifestyle habits that we've been discussing, then things aren't functioning the way that they should. When angiotensin 2 is unchecked, your doctor may prescribe what's known as an ACE inhibitor. Have you ever heard of that? Something like lisinopril? And all of those blood pressure medications that end in pril, they're ACE inhibitors. But there are foods that have ACE inhibiting compounds. Isn't that amazing? These would include garlic, ginger, mung beans, soybeans, mushrooms, and spinach. So those are some foods that you can eat that act on some way like the medication that your doctor will prescribe you. So they're good to incorporate into your diet. All right, moving on from foods. Water. How many of you are drinking enough water since you've been here at camp meeting with all the heat? See, 4 hands went up. Oh, you can be number 5. So I want to go back to this slide about understanding blood pressure. When we're measuring our blood pressure, we're measuring the, good job drinking water. We're measuring the pressure in our blood vessels as our heart's pumping the blood, right? So when we drink, well, before I go there, the components of our blood, what is our blood made of? 45% of it is made of our cells, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and platelets, and 55% of that is plasma. The plasma is the liquid part of your blood that all the cells can travel around in. 90% of that plasma is made of water. So a large portion of our blood, half of it at least, is made of water. So what do you think happens if we don't get enough water? How does that affect our blood? It gets thicker. It's not running as smoothly. So dehydration causes the blood to thicken, for lack of a better term, which makes it more difficult for the heart to pump through the system. As the heart requires more force to pump the blood, then your blood pressure goes up. Dehydration also causes the body to release a hormone vasopressin that causes the body to recycle water through the kidneys. High amounts of this vasopressin may cause blood vessels to constrict, also raising blood pressure levels. So when you're dehydrated, your body tries to hold on to whatever water it has because it's in like a survival mode. It doesn't know when it's going to be getting its next drink. So your kidneys start recycling water that's already gone through your body, and that's not healthy for us. There's a book called Your Body's Many Cries for Water, and it brings out the fact that even you could be fatigued and have brain fog and have a headache, and even those are signs of dehydration. Most of us are not drinking enough water.
If you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated.
It's already too late.
Yep.
Yes. Your body's many cries for water. So how much water are we supposed to drink a day?
5 to survive, 8 to feel great, 10 to thrive.
Oh, I like that. 5 to survive, 8 to feel great, and 10 to thrive.
Well, Vibrant Life said you should drink half your body weight in ounces of water. But Dr. Gallant that I had out in California at New Start said, don't go by numbers, go by color. And the color of your urine. If it's lemonade, you're good. If it's apple juice, you need to drink.
Yeah, the darker, the bigger the problem is. But I actually have the general recommendation. We hear the adage that you should drink 8 cups of water a day, right? But it's actually, like you said, you take your body weight, you divide it by 2, so however many pounds you weigh. We have, if Joe weighs 180 pounds, you divide that by 2, that's 90. He's supposed to drink 90 ounces of water a day. If you want to know how many cups that is, you divide that by 8. And that's how, there you go. Good for you. And that's how many cups that you should be drinking a day. The Mayo Clinic recommends, on average, 15.5 cups of water for men and 11.5 cups a day for women. Now, if you're like me, it's stressful enough trying to hit the 8, right?
I have an easier solution. Is that the 16 ounces of water, you just try to drink 4 or 6 a day, and then that should be all.
Yep, that's true. So there's little ways. I've seen they have those really big water bottles that have the encouraging messages on the side of them. It's like, you're doing great, keep going, you're almost there, you know. Some people, that works for them. To me, it's just a heavy thing to carry around.
What about the smart water and all the varieties that you provide at the store?
So there are some waters, they call them smart waters, like they put like minerals in them. You can get some with added electrolytes, you know, but just drink water. I had an individual, one moment, I had an individual that I was working with recently. She was having a lot of health issues. She was dehydrated. She had cancer. And I went to go visit her, and we had a meeting, like we were talking about different things that she could eat, and she had a water, and somebody had come in and was complaining about her water, saying, you can't drink that water, it's not good enough for you, you need this brand of water. And it's like, honey, just drink water. you need to drink water, you're dehydrated.
If the guy is really drinking almost 16 cups a day, you're going to be so full, you're not going to want to eat food. So which is more important, to get all your vegetables, fruits, nuts, and minerals, or your water?
So that kind of brings me to the next point that I was going to make, and that is the fact that if you do eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, you actually do get water content from the foods that you eat. You can. You can. So that's why this is just like a general recommendation. In this little math equation with Joe, he's well below the 15 cups. You know, so it's just like a general average.
But is the Mayo Clinic the average for the people who are eating the standard American diet and not getting any water in their fruits and vegetables?
Yes.
Because, like you said, I mean, lettuce and celery is mostly water.
Yes. You know, so you have like fruits, you know, you think of how juicy an orange is. You think of watermelon. Water's right there in the name, right? Any of your melons and stuff, you get water content that way. The point is just to bring awareness to the fact that as a whole, we don't drink enough water. And I can be the first one to raise my hand for that. I don't drink enough water. And so I have to be mindful and consciously remind myself. One of the things that helps me is if I have a water bottle nearby and I'm looking at it, it reminds me I need to drink it. So that's the one that works for me. I also tell my clients you can put flavoring or things in your water to help as well. It's like put some sliced lemons, put some mint leaves, put some orange slices. There's Bigelow Teas. They make an herbal tea packet as well. It's called Cold Infusion that you can put in your water. And then it's like a cold tea, but it's all herbal. So if you need that little extra flavor, yes?
And also on the hot days, like it has been, you have to help the water content.
Yes, because you're losing a lot through sweat, so you need to replace it. I had a hand over here.
If you put any sliced fruits or vegetables in your water, are you starting your digestive because of the nutrient little bit of value that might be coming through?
So the question is, if you put some sliced fruits or things like lemon in your water, are you starting your digestion? And no, because you're not having fiber. It's just pulling out some of the minerals and mixing in with your water. So that's why even if you juicing is really good for people who are trying to heal their stomachs and give their stomach a break, because there's nothing to break down. It can just get absorbed.
So even when they tell you to drink lemon juice before a meal, to help start the digestive juices when it's in water, which would probably only be like a little slice, you get tiny, but it still wouldn't do anything. And you have to worry about the acid on your teeth too.
Yeah, you don't want to put lemon juice on your teeth regularly. But no, you can do that, and it's not going to affect your digestive system. All right, moving on. Exercise. I'm sure you all went out for jogs all week in the 90-degree weather. This is an article Exercising your way to lowering your blood pressure. This was the American College of Sports Medicine. It says blood pressure naturally increases while exercising. Generally, this increase is not associated with a negative health outcome. Systolic and diastolic blood pressure can be expected to drop an average of 5 to 7 points among adults with hypertension if they regularly exercise. So as you're exercising in the moment, your blood pressure may rise a little, but then afterwards it comes down lower than where it was. These reductions may be even greater among those with a higher baseline starting blood pressure. These changes occur immediately, and you have the benefit for up to 22 hours. Over time, these acute changes turn into long-term or chronic changes. Even modest reduction in blood pressure for those with severe hypertension can provide substantial benefits. So every little bit you're able to bring your blood pressure down is a benefit. Even light to moderate regular exercise can improve your blood pressure. Exercise, regardless of the type, is beneficial for health when centered around reductions in blood pressure. However, the greatest reductions are associated with aerobic exercise: jogging, walking, cycling, and swimming. I heard you went for a big swim recently, right? So those are good ways. And how much does it cost to go for a walk? Your doctor's not making money on that, right? But getting that movement and getting out, getting the fresh air, getting the sunshine, it'll benefit so many things. And I had a lady who had high blood pressure, and I would tell her, I think I shared this story here before, that she needed to exercise to bring her blood pressure down. And she didn't believe me that it would work. And she's a friend, so I was like, let's go. We're going on a hike, Sabbath afternoon. And I took my blood pressure cuff with me, and I checked her blood pressure at the car. We went on a 5-mile walk, came back to the car, checked her blood pressure again. It had come down like 20 points, 30 points. It was really good. Aim for a minimum of 30 minutes a day of aerobic exercise. I heard, I just wanted to read that slide. No good.
I think it would be nice if we add gardening to that, because we have some farmers here, and that's hard work.
Gardening is a form of exercise as well. You get the sunshine, you get the fresh air. If anyone has a garden that they tended to, they know it's exercise, right? Thank you for that. All right, learning to depressurize. You know, this is moving away a little bit from some of the physical aspects, you know, and getting towards mental and physical rest. Okay? Sleep is a restorative process by the body. Your blood pressure decreases during sleep, and reduced dipping of blood pressure during sleep increases your cardiovascular risk. In other words, if you're not getting that little respite at night where your blood pressure comes down, then you're more at risk for heart disease, because now your blood pressure is consistently running higher. Does that make sense? Habitual short sleep duration is associated with hypertension, especially during middle age. So you want to make sure you're getting it more than 6 hours of sleep at night. They found that most of the negative outcomes with blood pressure and sleep were less than 6 hours at night. So I know being up at camp meeting, if you're staying in a tent, maybe it's hard, you're not getting your normal sleep, but just keep that in mind. More than physical rest, making time for mental rest is essential for maintaining appropriate blood pressure. Aim to spend time in nature, reading a book, etc., to give your mind a break from stressors of life. This can reduce blood pressure greatly. So mental rest is just as important as physical rest. And like I said, we're going to talk more about the stress and the mental aspect tomorrow and how that affects us. But it's important to make sure that you're taking times to just be. Read the Bible, pray, go for walks. It helps calm you. Now I have a study I want to show. I'll give a disclaimer before I show it, that it was a study looking at a very interesting correlation. Why this correlation happens, they need to go and study further. But I thought it would be interesting to include to show you. I think Pastor will appreciate this if you haven't heard it before. I'm calling it the Sabbath effect. Do you think we have a health benefit from the Sabbath? You have the study of the blue zones, right? We know about the blue zones, where they labeled the having a day or a weekly rest as a protective benefit to our health. But this was a study, this was an article written in 2000. It was called Death Rests a While: Holy Day and Sabbath Effects on Jewish Mortality in Israel. So they wanted to explore if the Sabbath and their holy days in Israel had any effect on health. It says the purpose of this study was to replicate and expand previous research examining the association between holy days and the timing of death. We analyzed daily numbers of deaths of Jewish men and women aged 35 and above in Israel from 1983 to 1992, controlling for long-term and seasonal trends. So anyone over the age of 35 between, 9 years, between 83 and 92, was examined to find out their time of deaths and their health problems that they had. And here's what they found. For all men and for younger women, ages 35 to 74, so all you ladies 74 and under, you got grouped into the young women category. There was a clear and significant dip-peak pattern in the number of deaths around the Sabbath, but no consistent dip-peak pattern around other holy days. This pattern was found for all causes of death, particularly cerebrovascular causes. That would be things like heart disease and stroke and diabetes. It was stronger for men than women. This was speculated because women have work to do. And it was not found among young Jewish children or among the non-Jewish population. They were only examining 35 and up. But what this is saying is they found that as the week went on and as Sabbath came, the number of deaths went down. Sabbath was the least likely day for someone to pass away. And then it would come back up like Sunday. I think Sunday was the biggest day for men and Monday for women, but then it would continue to trend down as you got closer to the Sabbath hours, which I thought was pretty interesting. Again, it was a correlation. They have to study more into exactly what causes it, but this was a speculation of the author. It says deaths occur on Saturdays, of course, just as they do on every other day of the week. And mind you, they're not counting like accidents and stuff. This is people who had heart disease and strokes and diabetes and things like that. It says, nonetheless, the sacred nature of the Sabbath, it's being set apart from all the mundane work days of the week, creates a special situation in which the probability of death is reduced. We have argued that the special nature derives not from what Sabbath is not, that it's not a work day, but from what it is. It's a day of social gathering and family solidarity. So they believed that the fact that you're more likely to come together on a Sabbath and to spend time together and fellowshipping and with your family, that had a benefit that helped improve your health. Because when it comes to our longevity, our minds do play a role.
I'm sorry, who did that study?
Did I put it? Oh, I didn't put the author's name. Come and talk to me after. I have it on here, but I can't access it without closing out of the presentation. But it was called Death Rests a While, and you can look up the study, and there's like a PDF version of it that you can get and read. I believe his last name was Olson. All right, when you need an extra boost. How much time we got? We're in our closing minutes. So I have just a brief slide here. We're going to call them nutraceuticals instead of pharmaceuticals. These are some herbs or some supplements that may be of benefit if you have blood pressure, if you're doing a bunch of lifestyle measures and it's not bringing your blood pressure down quite where you need it. I tend to only recommend supplementation in instances where someone's already applying the laws of health and they need that extra help, but I don't recommend that you constantly take supplements all the time. Use them for their purpose. So CoQ10, that's an antioxidant which can protect from cell damage. There's some studies that say it may be helpful in heart failure. Again, magnesium. I actually recommend a magnesium supplement called Calm for clients of mine. Calm, C-A-L-M. And it helps to relax you before you go to sleep. So for individuals who have trouble sleeping, that might be something that's beneficial for you. Prebiotics and probiotics. There's been some studies that having your microbiome in your gut unbalanced may contribute to your blood pressure. I was reading one article from Harvard that was like, we aren't entirely sure why, but we are seeing this relation. Hawthorn berry and hibiscus and beetroot, those are herbs that, again, have been studied to benefit with heart health. And then the last on the list is vitamin D. I already said if you live in New England in the wintertime, you're going to need some vitamin D. So putting all these pieces together, This is going to come back to my brother Paul's point he made earlier. So I want to bring out a few points. Lifestyle habits versus a temporary change. When you're looking to improve your health and you have a health issue that you're dealing with, it says when setting goals, focus for your health, focus on changes that you can incorporate into lifestyle. Temporary goals often lead to narrow and more unrealistic changes. Planning for the long haul helps the mindset to adjust to one of commitment. And then the changes don't feel so bad because it's becoming a part of you and your life. It says, for example, a goal to lose 10 pounds may lead to strict and rigorous effort that goes away once the goal is reached. On the other hand, a goal to have more energy and be able to play with your children and grandchildren encourages a deeper level of commitment and gives long-term benefits, one of which will be weight loss. So as you come up with goals for yourself, try to frame them in a way that will help encourage the long haul. Balance, this is something I advocate for a lot when I work with individuals. Sometimes we're too strict and we're too unrealistic in what we recommend, and we can turn people away from our health message or make them feel like it's so attainable that they just give up before they even begin. So have you heard of the concept of good, better, and best? You take someone where they're at, and you don't try to throw them off the deep end of the pool. Right? You take them little by little. You take their hand. You teach them how to swim. Start in the shallow end. Teach them how to tread water. Then you can teach them how to dive, right? But it's got to be a balanced, gradual change that's working people where they're at. So as part of planning for lifestyles incorporating balance, even healthy things in excess can become harmful. You can drink too much water, and people have died from drinking too much water all at once. So it's focused on the large picture, setting realistic goals that you'll be able to stick to in the long term. Okay? You don't want something you're going to end up giving up on. Applied knowledge, training and learning are two separate things. Knowledge needs to be applied to be beneficial. So even if it's incorporating one small change, you learn one thing. Maybe it's that, I don't exercise at all. I'm going to try to walk for 30 minutes today. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening. Is that doable, you think? That's realistic, right? So even if that's the one change you make, start there and then build up and add to it as you go. And then this is the one that Paul was mentioning, developing new enjoyments. It says, remember, we all have the ability to develop a new enjoyment. Like you were saying, our taste buds can actually change. If you've ever gone without salt for a while and then you ate something salty, you may have noticed like, ooh, that's salty. Instead of focusing on what you cannot do, think of new possibilities that are opening up before you. Okay, it depends on our mindset and how we frame things. Many will choose a life of sickness and death rather than to sacrifice something harmful for them because they don't know the wonderful things that are in store. I had that happen in my family with my father. He's been learning some things I've been trying for years to get him to incorporate some healthy stuff. And he didn't want anything healthy. But lately, through some health issues that he's been having, more and more he's learning to incorporate healthy things. And he's feeling better than he's felt in years. And he's so excited about it. And he's doing so amazing now that now he's in a place where he's looking to learn more things and incorporate more healthy stuff. So it has to do with how you frame it. And then when lifestyle isn't working. So I had someone come into my office, and they had issues with high blood pressure. And they were on 2 different medications for blood pressure. They weren't getting any benefit. Their doctors weren't happy with the results, and so they were like, what do I do? And so we're going over the whole lifestyle thing. You have to eat, balance, and well, I'm a vegan. I don't touch animal products. I eat salads every day and lots of healthy foods. Okay, how about exercise? I live by a lake. I walk every day. How about water? Oh, I drink 5 of these water bottles every day. How about sleep? I'm sleeping great. And yet the blood pressure wasn't coming down. And then as you talk to this individual, you find out there was some issues in their family, where some family members, there was tension, where they weren't getting along. And this individual was like immersed in the middle of it. That's a hard thing to deal with. Wrong way. It says, while science is hesitant to name stress as a singular cause of hypertension, so they try to say that stress will contribute to it, but an unhealthy lifestyle does as well. It is known that stress can briefly raise blood pressure with the potential to cause long-term effects, and the hormones released during stress, we'll talk about those tomorrow, like cortisol and adrenaline, they tend to damage the arteries. Emotional stress has been linked as a contributing factor to the 6 leading causes of death in the United States. That includes cancer, coronary heart disease, injuries, respiratory disorders, cirrhosis of the liver, and suicide. So being emotionally stressed is linked to all of these things. The good news is that we can better fortify ourselves to deal with stress. So you may not be able to change the circumstances around you, but you can make sure that you're better able to withstand stress, physically, mentally, spiritually. There are activities that you can do to reduce stress that will also help to reduce your blood pressure. And if you want to know what those are, then you have to come back tomorrow. Okay? That's my last slide of this presentation.
The list that you had for vitamin D and all those that you can take in hibiscus, can you use that with doctor's medication?
Good question. There it is. So the question is, can you take things like hibiscus, hawthorn berry while you're on medication? I always say to consult your doctor, for starters. The danger of taking an herbal product to lower your blood pressure while taking your medication is because if your medication is trying to lower your blood pressure and then you're taking hibiscus to lower your blood pressure, it can go too low, and then you're going to have a different host of problems, right? So I do recommend that you talk to your doctor first. There are some doctors who are very open now to learning more natural things. So I have had clients that I've recommended certain products to them, and they've actually taken it to their doctor, and their doctor's like, this is great, take it. You know, because the medication's not working, maybe this will help you. So you talk to them first. If someone does decide to do something like this while on medication, I always tell them to make sure you're monitoring your blood pressure. Okay, check it throughout the day to make sure you're not dropping it too low. Very important point. Thank you for that. Yeah, you had your hand up?
Yes, my problem was not addressed. I suffer with low sodium.
You have low sodium.
Yeah, it caused me to have to go to the hospital to get saline. Low sodium.
I would say come talk after, because it's different for everybody. And so there's a lot of other factors that tie into a person. So we can have a discussion on that. All right, with that, I think we wrapped up with 4 minutes to spare.
All right, well, you heard Dr. Harris present, and what time do we come back tomorrow?
10:30.
10:30, and where are we going to be?
Here.
Right here, unless there's a heat wave, but I don't think
No heat waves.
we should be right back here, all right? Very good, very good. All right, let's close with prayer. Father God, we want to thank you once again for just the vision and the knowledge you were able to impart to us. For your servant, I pray that your blessing would be with all of us as we enjoy the blessings of this day. And please bring us back here again safely tomorrow. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you all for being here.